Hello, everyone. Welcome to AgriBusiness Global Live. My name is Renee Targus. I'm the editor for AgriBusiness Global and your host and moderator for today's webinar, Mergers and Acquisitions Outlook for 2024. We've got three terrific panelists today, and it's going to be a lively discussion. And before we start, I'd like to just give you a little bit of information about the format for this webinar. We'll be having a discussion for around 40 to 45 minutes, and afterwards we'll be taking questions from the audience in the order that is put in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Let me introduce you to today's panelists. We've got Mark Trimmer. He's president and founding partner of Dunham Trimmer. It's a global market research firm dedicated to the biologicals market. We also have C.S. Liu. He's managing director of Pacific AgriScience. It's an ag chem marketing and trading company. It's based out of Singapore. And we also have Javier Chavarro. He's an independent consultant, an expert in the Latin American agribusiness, and he's based out of Colombia. So welcome, gentlemen. It's great to have you here. All right, so Mark, we're going to start the first question to you. What challenges are multinationals looking to solve through acquisitions in 2024?
Well, good morning, Renee. I'm glad to be here. And I would just start off by saying, looking at the biological space, I still think the number one driver for most of the multinationals is they're looking to add a fast-growing product line in the biologicals, whether they be biostimulants or biopesticides, to their portfolio so they can participate in that market. In addition, I think they see the value of combining the biologicals with their existing chemical portfolio. It allows them to create integrated pest management programs that combine the strengths of biologicals and chemicals. And as a result, it allows them to manage the life cycle of those chemical products and keep them effective longer by preventing pest resistance development. And since they invest so much money in developing those chemical products, of course, they want to maintain them on the market and keep them viable as long as possible.
CS, what about you? Do you have anything to add to that?
Yes. Thanks a lot, Renee, for inviting me to this panel discussion. I would say I want to talk a little bit about the synthetics and also on biosolutions in terms of what the MNCs are looking to do in terms of acquisitions. On the synthetic side, I would say market access as well as growth. 2023, which we are right in towards the closing of the year, but has been a really tough year. I would say many companies have been hit by what I call a perfect storm. Okay, so many companies have suffered from lower sales and lower profitability in 2023. Hopefully 2024 will be a better year. So in the light of the wake-up call of 2023, which if I can call it that, like I said, market access and growth, right? So where are the growth areas? I would say LATAM, Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, of course, and India and China. These are the major growth areas that I can see, right? So there's a need to build resilience, I would say, in case another 2023 occurs in the future, right? So they need to make acquisitions in these areas that are offering a lot of growth opportunities. But then again, these are also areas that have traditionally been difficult for many companies, right? And for one reason or another, right? So I don't have enough time to delve into all the inherent difficulties of these areas, but it happens that these are the regions or countries that offer the most growth going forward. Then on the biosolutions sector, again, market access, right? And also to fill internal technology gaps, which is what Mark has kind of mentioned earlier. A lot of these big players already have a nice portfolio of biosolutions, but there are still some gaps here and there. So this is what they're trying to do, to look for potential targets that could help them fill the gaps.
Great, thank you. Javier, how about you?
Yeah, this is a very interesting position, right? Because, we have to talk about three different situations here. We're talking about biopesticides, biostimulants, biofertilizers, and those are the situations that the companies try to align together, to offer to the customers. Because most of our companies don't have this kind of products to offer to the customers. The main challenge is to try to find the right product to try to put together with the traditional portfolio to offer to the customers, because they are trying to increase market share, the opportunity to buy a strong local brand, looking for a market entry where they don't have a position. And I think they are looking for many opportunities to expand their portfolio together, biologicals and chemicals, to offer a good position for the farmers.
Yeah, I know that there's been discussion before about there's a lot of biological companies out there, but are they the ones that they really want? Which kind of brings me to my next question. And Mark, I'm gonna send this back to you. We'll just keep going around. So Mark, what size companies seem to be involved in the M&A activities, and why do you think that is?
I think the short answer to that is, when you think about the different size companies, it's all sizes. When I think about the large companies, I see them mainly as acquirers. As CS said, they may be looking to fill gaps in their portfolio, unique product types that they don't have internally. They may be looking to enhance their market access in particular geographies. So they seek out a company with a strength, with boots on the ground in a particular country. With the medium-sized companies in the biological space, I see a lot of mergers to try and increase their resources, but also increase their portfolio depth and breadth. So looking to make themselves more competitive and more resilient to some of the challenges that CS alluded to that 2023 has brought. And then those small companies, they're really in a difficult position in the current investment climate. It's difficult for small companies to find funding. So many of those are being forced to maybe partner a bit earlier than they would plan to. So they're seeking either a funder or a direct acquisition from a larger company.
Right. CS, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, from the standpoint of acquirers, it will be the bigger companies as well as medium-sized companies. But on the other side of the equation, the ones that are targets for acquisition could be any size, as Mark pointed out earlier. Okay, the larger ones, of course, they need to show growth, right, to shareholders. So they definitely need to continue to find ways to grow organically and through acquisitions, of course. The medium-sized ones, particularly the ones that are in biosolutions, they are probably already heavily invested by private equities as well as sovereign funds, such as the one that the ones that we have in Singapore, GIC and Temasek. Both have invested in many companies, especially lately more so in the biosolutions sector. So again, they need to demonstrate growth, and they need to do it fast, because once you have PEs and venture capitalists as well as sovereign funds coming in, they have a horizon of 3 to 5 years, in terms of exit. So they are under more pressure to demonstrate growth through more acquisitions, I would say, right?
I had a follow-up question for you on that. So, with 2023 being a difficult year and a lot of, and I'm talking about synthetic crop protection companies at this point. So they've had a tough year. They want to diversify. what's that going to look like in 2024 though for them if they're already sort of suffering, it's been a tough year. Are they able to acquire or merge or start with, because I know a lot of them want to diversify their portfolio into biologicals, but can you talk to me a little bit about, is that even possible for 2024?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think they haven't stopped looking at acquisition targets, because these companies, the bigger ones especially, they have a very long-term horizon, right? So there's always capital available if the right targets are there. And I personally am pursuing some of those as well in terms of finding targets for these bigger guys. Right. So I don't think they're going to slow down, right? Just because they have a bad year, they're going to charge forward.
Okay, great. So in the LATAM area, Javier, what are you seeing as far as is mergers and acquisitions activities? It's at large, medium, small, or?
Yeah, this is very interesting because we are talking about funding, to get the money for developing. The idea is that register a traditional chemical product is spent around $300 million, $250, $300 million. But to try to develop a biological product, it is around $20-25 million. This is less. For that reason, those companies are trying to focus on smaller companies. Because venture capital companies trying to fund many companies that spend around less than $10 million, because private equity, they want to mature companies, they try to spend $100 million to buy a company, but for that reason, they try to focus mainly in smaller companies to try to get for the company itself, for that reason. Their focus mainly goes to the small companies, and this is the tendency now. Try to buy these kind of companies because they have one or two products that can be added to our portfolio to offer to our customers in a good way.
All right, thanks, Javier. I'm going to skip ahead on one of our questions. One of the questions that I'd like to talk about, and Mark, this is going to you again. What attributes are most important to investors when assessing potential candidates for acquisition?
There's a number of things that investors look at. I think first and foremost is the product or the technology that the company has. Has it been demonstrated to perform in the real world, not just in the lab or the greenhouse? I always tell my clients, don't fall in love with your technology. Look at the data and assess it as what's really happening, not what you wish was happening. I think the second thing that investors want to see is some kind of barrier to entry. Patents are the gold standard, but also trade secrets can be very effective. So they really like to see that. I think they want to see some proven production capacity. Hopefully a production capacity at or near commercial scale. Prove that you can produce the product at a cost that the grower can afford to pay, and where you have a profit margin on that product. And then I think understanding your addressable market and having a means to access that market, as CS has spoken about here a couple of times. It's great to say you have a $5 billion market, but if you have no way to access it, it's meaningless. And then the last thing I think they really look at is the management team, and are they committed, and do they have a shared vision for what they want to do, how they're going to grow this company. And when you put all five of those together, you got a winning formula, and you will find investors that are interested.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. CS, what's your take on that?
Yeah, from the standpoint of Chinese and Indian ag-chem manufacturers' standpoint, they will be looking at targets that have product registrations that overlap with what they are manufacturing, because they want to piggyback on those registrations, especially in countries that have very long registration periods and also costing a lot of money, such as in Brazil and some other countries. So that overlap is very important to them, right? And of course, generally speaking, a set of very good product registrations will be a major attribute that investors will be looking at because this allows market access, right? So then, of course, technology and R&D prowess, particularly in the biosolutions area. You got to have something very unique and not just another mycorrhiza or Bacillus subtilis producer, right? You got to have something new and something novel. And of course, your current market penetration, how good is that, and how much market access you already have? How many countries do you cover aside from your home base? These are very important as well, right? So then if you have, let's say you are in synthetics, in generics as a distributor, obviously you offer the market access. But if you also have some semi-proprietary products with good margins, or even if they are generics, but you have a formulation that stands out in the marketplace that allows you a better margin compared to basic old generics, again, that will be attractive to investors.
Great. And Javier, what about you?
Well, it depends what scenario do you want to enter, yeah? If you want to enter to biopesticides, biostimulants, biofertilizers, depending on the restrictions for registrations in every country, yeah? It's harder to try to register a biopesticide because of the regulations of every country. And what do they have to offer, yeah, to the company that is going to buy the product? Yeah, for that reason, it is very interesting to try to define what will be the future of this point to try to get a good offer to them.
All right, thank you. Speaking of the future, so what's your take on mergers and acquisitions activity for the next maybe 3 to 5 years? And Mark, do you think it's going to be increasing or slowing down? What's your take on that?
I think in the biological space, I sort of see it as being sustained, although I think the type of activity we've seen in the past is going to change a little bit. I think we're going to see fewer deals with pure investors, PE firms and VC, and we're going to see more mergers between companies. And I think that for all the reasons we've talked about, companies looking to build out their portfolio. And I think some of the larger companies may view this as a buying opportunity. Small companies that are having difficulty finding funding but have interesting technology may be available to large companies at a cost that's much lower than they would have been 2 or 3 years ago. So I think we'll see more of those kind of deals, but I think the consolidation trend in the bio world is going to continue at a fairly high rate.
Okay, thank you. CS, how about you?
Yeah, in the biosolution space, I agree with Mark there in his comments. I think there are going to be many more new players emerging simply because of the relatively low barriers to entry, right? So you just need a lab and you can start, kicking off producing biologicals, right? And then all you need is another fermentation tank, and there you have it, right? So the barriers to entry are relatively low, and then in terms of market access, it's also quite low in most countries except EU and US and well, US is still much easier than the EU. I would say Japan and the EU are the toughest to get in, right? So because of that, you're going to find more, as I said, players coming on board, and those that are not well funded by private equity and sovereign funds are going to face enormous issues in terms of trying to gain traction in the marketplace. You know, producing is one thing, going into the market and gaining market penetration and access is another thing altogether. So I see a lot of players coming on board that are not that well funded. They have put all their money into manufacturing and production and forgot that you need multiples of what you put into developing and manufacturing, right? In terms of going into the market, you need to promote your products, and that is where a lot of funding is required. And the ones that I see that are doing well, you know, just take the one big example in Brazil, Biotrop, for example, that was sold to BioBest for $500 million US. They are, you know, well funded by Singapore's sovereign fund, GIC, as well as a private equity fund in Brazil itself. So I see that pattern being repeated over and over again, you know, in many other of these biological companies, right? Those that are well funded are gaining market traction. Those that are not are really struggling to gain market access. And then going back to synthetics, and I have to again talk about India and China. In China, over the last decade, there has been a major consolidation in terms of numbers of manufacturers, and that's all driven by legislations, right? Because China, the Chinese government is trying to control pollution and trying to get the 500 or so AI producing plants to consolidate. And a lot of that has happened because the smaller players couldn't fund the need to find solutions to pollution control. And then in India, again, in the last 3 years or so, so many manufacturing licenses for active ingredient production has been issued. And again, those that are not well funded are struggling to gain market traction, simply because there's a lot of overlap in terms of what molecules they produce against what's already being produced by other players. So again, I see the need for consolidation going forward in that space.
Great, thank you. Javier, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, in the case of Latin America, I think we have a great future for biopesticides, especially because we are the pantry of the world. We send products to United States, to Europe, to Asia Pacific, and we are dealing with all of these situations, yeah. But as the other countries, we have a lot of pressure from regulatory agencies, food companies, consumers, yeah. For that reason, the tendency of the new companies is try to include so many products, yeah, in these portfolios, yeah, to apply in the field. But for that reason, our farmers are very hungry, yeah, for this kind of product to try to have another way of application of control the different problems they have in the field, yeah. For that reason, I think for the future, we're going to have a very good opportunity here in Latin America to include a lot of biologicals, a lot of biopesticides, yeah, to try to offer new opportunities for the farmers, yeah, to try to send or to try to fight with the emeralds, the problem they have for sending the products to outside.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question for you, because I know Brazil is doing a lot with their regulations to kind of fast track a lot of the biologicals, you know, for registrations. So when you're seeing like these newer companies or, you know, other bigger companies interested in acquiring or merging with companies, is that activity happening mostly in Brazil, or do you see any of that happening in Central America or Argentina, anything like that?
Yeah, don't forget that when you talk about Latin America, you have to try to think about 2 different scenarios. Yeah, this is the grain professional producers, and we are talking Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and so on. Yeah, we're talking about soybeans, we're about corn, we're talking about different kind of products. And we are talking about the second scenario is the export producers, and we are talking about fruit and vegetables. Yeah, we're talking about Chile, we're talking about Peru, Mexico, some countries of Central America, that we are talking about different kind of products. Yeah, and the other market is the local consumption market that is related to small farmers that we hear in Latin America. The situation for this kind of product is focused mainly in the fruit and vegetables exporters, yeah, because they have a lot of problem with the emeralds of the product they're applying in this moment in the field. But some restrictions in the case of grain producers that they don't have too much problem with that because they do not have a direct consumption, yeah, of the product that they are offering. For that reason, we have to try to separate the situation we are talking and the situation for them, for biopesticides, especially biopesticides, biostimulants, biofertilizers. I think the opportunity is a very good focus, especially from Mexico to Argentina in the central part of Central America for the product that are exporting to other countries.
Okay, great. So you just, Javier, you just answered my next question, but I'd like to pose that question to Mark and CS as well. So Mark, what types of products like biopesticides, biostimulants, biofertilizers are attracting the most interest from investors?
Well, I like to say they've all had their moment in the spotlight. I mean, when you think about 10 years ago, the biopesticide world really, came on the map when Bayer and Syngenta and BASF all started to make some major acquisitions. And then a few years later, the biostimulant world really came into the spotlight, with the most important being Syngenta's acquisition of Valagro, really signaling that some of the major companies were interested, and we've continued to see interest by many of the large fertilizer and crop protection companies in the biostimulant space. And then most recently, it's been the biofertilizer world, particularly the nitrogen-fixing microbials for non-legumes, the corn in North America, where we've seen some huge valuations for some of the companies involved in that space from investors. But I always sort of come back and say, okay, for most investors, especially pure investors, they aren't too concerned about the type of product. They're really looking at the business and saying, does the business model make sense? Can I make a return on this investment? If all those factors I talked about earlier are in alignment, then the investor really doesn't care what type of product it is the company's producing, as long as they believe in the product and the team and the market that they're trying to target.
Okay, great. CS, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, just following up on what Mark just said about biofertilizer, particularly the nitrogen-fixing bacteria for non-legume crops. I have to say, yes, that's a very interesting area, and lots of investors are looking at that area. And then we have, of course, an outstanding success in terms of what Pivot is doing in the US. Pivot is a company with one of these nitrogen-fixing bacteria that has already reached $100 million in sales this year. That's a phenomenal achievement, I would say, particularly when they have been focusing just on the North American market, which to me, for such a product, is really hard to demonstrate a significant benefit, to the farmers, simply because if you go to the Midwest in the US, the crops are been there for so many years. The farms have been around for so many years, and the crops are growing optimally. So it is really difficult to demonstrate benefits with a product like that. But in spite of that, as I said, Pivot has gained $100 million in sales. That's fantastic. I would say for something like that, you will be able to see better results in countries like in South America and even sub-Saharan Africa, where the soils are not so even, in a given farm, and so therefore you have patches of better growth compared to other patches in the same field, right? I've seen that with my own eyes in Mato Grosso in Brazil, in terms of thousands and thousands of hectares of corn, soybeans, and cotton. Compared to the US, they are nowhere near that in terms of consistencies in growth, in a given farm or in a given field. So therefore, I feel that is one area where you can really demonstrate the benefits more clearly to farmers, right? So those are the areas that ought to be focused. But in terms of you mentioning biopesticides, biostimulants, biofertilizers, which are the targets of investors. I would say, yes, biopesticide will always be number one in terms of attractiveness, particularly bioherbicides, because this area is the most difficult to come up with a product, right? We have already many bioinsecticides and biofungicides in the market, but bioherbicide, I haven't heard of anything that is significant out there, right? In terms of discovery, of course, the most obvious approach will be bioprospecting, right? You go out into the field, you look at plants in the field, and you see which plant is standing alone without many other plants or without any plants surrounding it. So you know that plant is exuding some chemicals that are toxic to other species around it. So that's the plant you want to focus on. That's where you do your extracts in the lab, and that's where you bulk it up and do your trials, and you discover your new bioherbicide that way. However, having said that, unfortunately, that is the most difficult part in terms of production, right? How many hectares of that plants that you need to grow in order to extract enough bioherbicide out of that? So that's the challenge, right? So in terms of production. Of course, another approach that has been taken by some companies is using bacteria, right? The metabolites of certain bacteria can be a herbicide as well, a bioherbicide. But again, we need to be careful that that species or strain of bacteria doesn't mutate along the way, and therefore causing yield reduction in terms of harvesting the metabolite that is your bioherbicide, right? So then a third area that I say would be an attraction, which hasn't been a major focus up to this point in time, are hybrids. Hybrids meaning half biological and half synthetics. So this is a way to reduce the amount of synthetics that are put out in the field, which is what the EU farm to fork strategy calls for, right? A significant reduction in the usage or application of synthetic chemicals in the farms. So I see potentials, for hybrids, but as I said, it hasn't been a real major focus. But going forward, I think more companies will be looking in that direction, and therefore, once you gain traction there, investors will start to look more into this aspects as well. Right.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm going to go to our last question before we start taking questions from the audience. So Javier, this one is going to be directed to you, and then we'll circle around. So in your opinion, how does a pure investor differ in their approach to investing in comparison to a big player in the ag space?
This is very interesting, right? Because the idea of these investments that must be focused to try to look for a real product, yeah? Investments must be done for the big companies trying to look for a product that get something to go together with the portfolio they have in this moment. Yeah, and I have said before that what the companies are trying to do is to offer a customer a good portfolio that he can apply into the field, make a rotation of different products. There is an opportunity in that, because I remember so many years ago that when they say you can apply a biological product trying to reduce an application of chemical. This is trying to reduce the chemical charge for the plants. Yeah, that opens a broad door to try to enter by this way so many products for that. For the reason big companies are trying to looking for this kind of product to put together with the portfolio. Because what is happening today with the big companies, say they have a agrochemicals department, biologicals department, biostimulants department, but they have to try to work together, not because of department or areas, because what they have to offer to the farmers is just a portfolio. They cannot offer different kind of products.
That's a good point. It's true. Mark, what about you? Have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and I think I mentioned earlier the increase in interest rates has made the pure investors much more selective. They're no longer willing to offer the high valuations they were a few years ago, because their profit margins a little bit narrower now with the interest rates being higher. That said, though, I still think companies that have good technology, that have done a good job of identifying their markets, and that have de-risked that technology. So by de-risking, I mean, have they scaled up their production? Have they gotten some registrations for that technology? Have they proven the value of the technology under real world conditions? The more of those kind of data points that a company can show an investor, then the lower the risk for that investor and the more attractive the investment becomes. So companies with the right offer are still going to find some opportunities, but I know in speaking to investors and to CEOs of small companies, it's a challenging environment right now for those small companies to find funding.
Okay, thanks. CS, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I would say the key differences between pure investors such as private equity and sovereign funds such as the ones I mentioned before in Singapore, and the big players would be time horizon, right? The big players are, strategic investors. They look long term, right? Whereas the pure investors are always having a 3 to 5 year time horizon to exit, right? The big players look more from strategic standpoint, how the targets portfolio will synergize with what they already have. Therefore, they have a much strategic viewpoint when it comes to assessing a target, right? And then the big players, as I said, are always looking to see how also some of these targets can allow them market access, right? In regions in which they are not pretty strong at the moment, right? So these are not what a pure investor would be looking at. And then in terms of valuation, I would say the big players, the strategic players, tend to be more conservative compared to pure investors. Pure investors, because of their short time horizon where they need to exit or they want to exit, it's a matter of we must have it. We must make the acquisition. Whereas the big guys are saying, well, it's nice to have it, but if the valuation is not right, we're not going to go for it, right? So those are what I see are the key differences between the pure investors and the strategic players.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so we're going to start taking questions from our audience. We've got about 10 questions right now, so we'll try to get through as many as we can before our time is over. So the first question is, okay, it says, the elephant in the room is a potential spinoff of Bayer Crop Science. How do you see this playing out? Will another loss on glyphosate impact their decision-making? So who would like to take that question? CS, I'm going to put that to you.
Yeah. So the rumored, right, spin-off, I think it's currently just a rumor. So I don't know whether that's going to happen, because this is a big deal, right? We're talking about multi-billion dollars and double-digit as well. So it's not a very easy thing to do. I mean, they may want to do it, but who is going to be able to take this on? So this is the key question right now. Obviously, the Chinese, it's a possibility. With Sinochem and ChemChina combined, we're talking about an entity of $200 billion turnover. But they already have Syngenta, they have Adama, right, and also a small portfolio of local manufacturers as well. So I don't know, because they are in a mode of consolidation, in a mode of digesting what they have already taken on in terms of Syngenta. From what I know, it hasn't gone as well as they hoped for. In fact, they were hoping for a relisting of Syngenta after they'd taken it over a few years ago, for $43 billion. But they haven't have that opportunity yet, because the valuation in the marketplace just wasn't right for them. So I don't know, who's going to take it over if they want to spin off, right? And in terms of the glyphosate part or the Roundup part of the business, again, having had so many lawsuits and whatnot, I don't know whether that is an attraction still, for somebody to take it over with all these potential issues in terms of liabilities, right? So that's my take.
All right, thank you, CS. I know that was a hard question. So the next question we've got, is there a 2024 opportunity for a multinational merger in order to broaden a biological portfolio and greatly improve economy of scale across all facets of combined business? And Mark, I'm going to put that to you.
Okay. I'm sort of interpreting this of a multinational merger between biological companies, or a biological company and a chemical. And yes, I think we are going to see some of those. I've seen more activity among what I call established biopesticide companies looking to either make acquisitions themselves or to merge with others. We still have a very fragmented market with hundreds of companies involved in biologicals. So there's a lot of opportunity for further mergers here for all the reasons we've talked about already. Broadening the portfolio, increasing market access, gaining boots on the ground in specific countries. In Javier's region, everyone wants to have a position in Brazil. So everyone's looking for opportunities there. And I think that's going to continue to be a very big target for a lot of different players in the space.
Okay, great. All right, our next question is, it says, beyond biologicals, markets like non-GMO varieties and other specialty output-based trait varieties are growing in terms of consumer preference. This seems to be at odds with the majors driving specific trait platforms through their germplasm. How do you reconcile this? Okay, so which one of you wants to take on that question?
I can, put in a couple of words along the lines that I think GMO is a thing of the past. Now we're going to talk about gene editing more and more, right? Because GMO required like, 10 or 15 years of research to come up with one trait, and many millions of dollars, tens, I would say how much, at least $100 or so million of investments, whereas gene editing takes only about 5 years and only $4 or $5 million, right? So going forward, I would say you're going to see a lot more action in terms of gene editing. And gene editing is, I think, more acceptable to regulatory authorities and consumers alike. Maybe consumers are not so aware of the differences because, this is something very technical, right? So, but in terms of regulations, regulatory authorities, I think they look at gene editing more favorably than GMOs, except maybe in the EU, which likes to regulate everything, so including gene editing, right? So yeah, that's what I want to say about GMO and where it stands, and especially going forward.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mark or Javier, do you have anything to add to that? No. Okay. Oh, Mark, did you have anything?
No, I think CS really covered that one quite well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next question. The panel spoke at length about the importance of good, proven, and differentiated technology being attractive to investors and acquirers. If we think about breaking apart technology into active ingredients and formulation, how important or attractive is formulation technology? Javier, do you want to try for that one?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is a key point. Yeah, for the offer for the farmers. Yeah, formulation technology perhaps is the way that the farmers can use, to put the product in the field. Yeah, because normally we talk about different kind of products, and we have to try to find the real formulation to mix adequately, with the other products. Yeah, don't forget that this kind of product cannot mix with, in some cases, agrochemicals, because it cannot be mixed together. Yeah, and the idea is to develop a formulation technology that handle in a good way this kind of products. I remember the situation of a mixture of agrochemical with a biological, and they have to use nanotechnology to try to prevent or to handle the biological inside the agrochemical. Yeah, the idea is have to work a lot in this kind of development, especially of formulation technology, to offer in an easy way for the farmers to use adequately the product in the field.
Great. Mark,
May I add a couple of points as well? I think formulation going forward would be very, very critical, right? Because the world is looking at putting less pounds of active on the ground, right? So you need to deliver the product more efficiently to the targets, right? So nanotechnology is definitely one way. So you need specialized formulations in terms of handling nanoparticles, right? So yeah, delivering less chemicals per unit area through formulation technologies would definitely jive with what the world is looking for in terms of sustainable agriculture.
Great. Mark, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I would just add in sort of echoing, but in the biological space, formulations are extremely important to, consistent performance of the products, but also getting the use rate down to an acceptable level so that the product is affordable. And many of the biotechnologies, the plant extracts, some of the bacterial products are challenging to formulate. If a company has a formulation technology that solves some of those problems and can be applied across a range of products, it could be very valuable and very attractive to many companies to license or to investors. So I think it's definitely an area of interest.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, next question. I've seen a number of acquisitions in the biorational realm, some with very high price tags, even though they haven't made a dime or very negative. Have any of these been a good buy or successful? And who would like to take that one?
Well, I guess I can jump in on that one. I will say, I think some of the valuations in recent years were extremely high and sort of got out of the range of what was going to be a good investment. And I think we're seeing a sort of a correction on that now with the lower valuations that many companies are seeing being put on their technology. As to whether, how good of an investment have all these these companies that have been acquired been, it's hard to judge that early on. It takes time for a company to integrate the new technology and the new people and to make full use of them. But I think the one answer I would say, the continued interest by a number of large companies, both fertilizer and crop protection, in these types of companies tells you they see value.
Great, thank you. All right, next question. Does the intention of large multinationals to buy small companies in emerging markets imply a monopoly of these companies in the future of biorational markets? Javier, did you want to talk about?
For sure. Yeah, for sure not. For sure not. Yeah, because when you talk about biopesticides, there is so many brands from many different companies that we have. Bacillus subtilis is the product. Yeah, and they have a lot of with the other brands or the other names that Bacillus amyloliquefaciens. That is the same Bacillus subtilis. Yeah, and at the end, perhaps the only biological, the most known biological we have today in the market is Bacillus subtilis or Bacillus amyloliquefaciens with different brands in the market. At the end, what the company has is an opportunity to offer this kind of product in their internal portfolio to the farmers. Yeah, and at the end, perhaps for the future, there will be no monopoly in this kind of. If you have something very, very special and a specialty to offer that cannot be copied or cannot have it by another company, perhaps you have a blockbuster. But in this moment, it is not.
Okay, great.
Can I add to that, Javier? I agree that it's not going to lead to a monopolistic situation as we had it 20 or so years ago or 30 years ago with seeds, right? With GMOs, with seeds. A lot of the multinationals, or not a lot, but a few of the multinationals practically monopolize this area simply because they kept mopping up all the mom and pop seed companies that had generations of history, right? They had good genetics, and all these few multinationals just mop them up because that's the conduit to the farms or to the farmers. The seeds, right, are the conduits, right, for their GMOs. So, because they were so dominant and there were not that many seed companies with that sort of genetics available compared to what we have today in terms of biologicals. As I said earlier, the barriers to entry is very low. All you need is a lab and a fermentation tank, and you can start one, right? So, no matter how many they buy up, there's still going to be a lot of competition out there.
I'll just add in, Renee, this is still an extremely fragmented area. I know in my own database that we keep on companies, we have over 800 companies in our database. I saw a presentation by another company recently where they had identified more than 1,000 companies in the biological space. So we are a long, long way from monopoly. In fact, we're exactly the opposite. We're inefficient because so many of those companies, even if they have great technology, have no way to deliver it to the grower. They don't have the resources, they don't have the market access, they don't have the people to make it happen. So consolidation needs to occur within the space in order to achieve some of those basic efficiencies within the industry.
Great, great. Thank you, everyone. All right, this will be our last question. And for the rest of you that have your questions up there, we will get them answered as far as putting them into the blog. So please look for that. So the last question is, what is the view of in the investment market for the RNAi-based technology used in agriculture, the green light biosciences and the such? Anyone want to take that? Mark?
I can start off on that one and then let the others jump in. I mean, the RNAi technology has always been of great interest, and I think the researchers have seen great potential in it. The challenge has always been production cost and delivering a stable product that and being able to deliver it at a price that a farmer is willing to pay that still allows for a profit margin for the company. I think some of the companies have solved some of the key issues with RNAi. I think some of them have not kept focus. They've tried to deliver products for too many different industries, not just ag, but pharma, animal health, other things. And they were so diverse in their approach that it was difficult to be successful in any one of them. But I think there's still, a long-term future that for RNAi technology. We've seen it in the GMOs. I think we're going to see it in the sprayable technology in the foreseeable future, whether it's Green Light or another startup that is involved in this space.
Great, thank you, Mark. Javier, did you want to add to that?
No, simply that confirm. Simply that confirm that Matt mentioned. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with that.
All right, CS, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think Mark has said it very well there, so I don't have anything to add.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank all three of you for joining us today in the webinar. I really appreciated your discussion, and I hope it was useful to our audience. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, see you.